I've played Pokemon in a ton of different ways, like by following the official guides as closely as I can, Nuzlocke challenges, but today we're going to see if it's possible to beat Pokemon as a brand new player. Here's how this will work. I'll try my best to ignore everything I know about Pokemon and go through the game only doing what the game tells me to do with no outside resources to see how easy it is to get lost and how well the game explains everything there is in Pokemon. This ended up being a lot weirder than you might expect, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe, or just don't, I don't know you I guess, and let's get right into it. Starting off, the game tells us how we can press L or R for help, which wasn't all that helpful. Then we name our rival. I have a lot of enemies I can name this guy after, like the kid who stole my Ruby version when I was little, or the Department of Motor Vehicles, but I just named him Gary. I couldn't think of anything better, but once loading up, we could talk to our mom who tells us to go next door to talk to the Pokemon professor. It turns out that the professor isn't next door and it's just Daisy, but if we go to the only other building in this town, we will see Gary, who tells us the professor isn't there, so the only other possible way we can go is north, and as soon as we set foot in the grass over here, Professor Oak appears. I have no idea where he came from, but after talking to him for a little bit, he prompted us to pick our first partner Pokemon. We can learn a bit about each Pokemon if we interact with each Pokeballs, mainly just their types and what they look like, which isn't the most helpful thing. The game didn't really explain types or how they work yet, so since I was trying to think like a new player, I picked the Fire-type Pokemon, Charmander. My logic was there's water south of Pallet Town and grass just north, so fire has to be the rarest type, right? I named the Charmander Hamilton and have our first Pokemon battle against Gary, where we learn the basics, then venture off north. We eventually make it to Viridian City, and there's a trainer school here. I thought this would be useful to learn how type matchups work, but all they do here is explain how status conditions work. Still a good thing to know, but at this rate it's going to look like we have to learn type advantages the old-fashioned way by just trial and error. When we step foot into the Pokemon Center and talk to the NPCs, we learn that we can heal up here and use the PC to store our excess Pokemon. All very useful things. Then in the mart, we can't buy anything yet. That's because we're given a parcel that we need to then take to Professor Oak back in Pallet Town. I explore around a little bit more and find our rival, who just smokes us in a battle, so I just head north and find this guy just sleeping in the middle of the road. They're saying something about how this is private property, but it looks like a public road to me, and just a lame excuse to prevent the player from moving forward and getting lost. I figure now is a good time to give Oak his parcel, and in return he rewards us with a Pokedex and some Pokeballs. I have no idea what these are, but the Pokedex is a Pokemon encyclopedia, and Pokeballs are needed to catch more Pokemon for said encyclopedia. The Pokedex really isn't too useful either. It tells us some information on Pokemon we've already seen, where to catch them, and their types. Learning the types is the most useful part to help us figure out type advantages, because at this point I wasn't really told how they worked yet. Continuing north, the sleepy man is now awake, and instead of kicking us out of his private property, he teaches us how to catch a Pokemon instead. We use this knowledge to catch a Weedle, which I name Clown. I don't know why, it just kinda reminds me of a clown and looks like it'll evolve into more of a clown looking thing. Hamilton learns Ember around here too, and this is the first time we're seeing the super effective damage text. Now we know that fire is super effective against bugs, which makes sense since lighting things on fire tends to be pretty effective, at least from what I've heard. A trainer here then asks us if we knew that Pokemon evolve, and I have no idea what that means, just for our clown to evolve a few minutes later into, what even is this thing? It certainly isn't a clown anymore and looks more like an alien or a turd even. Now getting through the forest was pretty easy, and now we're in Pewter City. Surely since Charmander stomped everything in the forest, it should be good and have an easy time here too, right? I explore a bit and get led into the gym by this trainer. First, we fight this other trainer with a Geodude and a Sandshrew. Clown gets destroyed by the Sandshrew, but Hamilton can take care of. The guide told me Brock was a Rock-type trainer, so I can only assume that this thing is a Rock-type too. Ember was not very effective though, which is the opposite of what we want, but on the bright side, we are learning some more about type matchups through trial and error. Scratch is also resisted on Geodude, which is going to make Brock much harder than I thought. I heal up before facing Brock and head back into the gym. His Geodude was a little tough, and we learned a new move in Metal Claw. It's a steel type move, and we haven't seen any steel moves yet, so I tried out on Onix and see that it's super effective. It still doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and then we fall. This time I buy some potions because we were told that they can be helpful and go right back to face Brock. This time we get lucky as Onyx missed a few more moves, giving us our very first gym badge. No thanks to you, clown. You did nothing. Now that we have a gym badge, one of the professor's aides decides that we're now good enough at Pokemon to be able to run, something that people in the Kanto region can only do if they have a gym badge. Don't even think to run in this region without a badge or else Officer Jenny will get you. The only other way to go next is east, as it was blocked before. Generally in video games, when a place that was previously locked becomes unlocked, you should probably go that way next. There's a lot of trainers here, and Clown really lives up to his name being a terrible Pokemon. Like, I know I'm supposed to pretend like I've never played Pokemon before, but I never realized just how bad early route bug types are, just for the payout to be an even bigger bug that's only useful for maybe 3 or 4 gyms. I just focus on mainly using Charmander here with Ember, which is not super effective against birds. I guess the creators of Pokemon have never been to a KFC before, but one trainer along here mentions how Rattata has a strong bite, so I decided to look out for one, and spoiler alert, I just never find one or catch one. Hamilton does evolve to Charmeleon though, which also looks like an alien. I'm not sure what's up with so many Pokemon early on just looking like aliens, but eventually reach another Pokemon Center where we can heal up. I talk to everybody in here of course, and learn as much as I can, and come across this salesman selling magic cards for $500. I have no idea if that's a lot of money or not in Pokemon, but I have enough so I buy it anyway. It's an easy Pokemon to add to the team that doesn't look like an alien, and the Pokedex says it's a water type, which we haven't seen yet and have no water types yet. I don't think it was a scam. Oh wait, never mind, it was completely a scam as this thing is totally useless. Don't bring a fish to a cave and expect it to help you out too much, I guess, but in Mount Moon we see some new Pokemon like Zubat. This thing also kind of looks like an alien, so I catch one and just name it Alien, to just find a higher level Zubat a few minutes later, which I catch again and name Alien 2, because I forgot to add the 2 at the end, so they're both just named Alien. I find this crab thing too, which I just had to catch because who doesn't love crabs? Through Mount Moon, we also find this Moonstone, which has no use apparently, and meet Team Rocket. I don't know what their deal is, well actually I do, but after battling one of the grunts, Charmeleon tries to learn Smokescreen. Smokescreen does no damage, so I don't see why I would ever want to use it, so I just don't learn it. Then the last trainer here in Mount Moon is some nerd who's obsessing over some fossils, but once defeating him he lets us take one of his fossils, so I of course picked the Dome Fossil because it reminds me of your mother. Before exiting the cave, I find yet another Zubat that is a higher level than Zubat and Zubat 2, so I catch it and name it Alien 3. Some Karate Man on the outside then teaches Charmeleon how to Mega Punch, and wow, look at that, we're in Cerulean City. I check out the gym first, and the guy tells us how grass types are good here against the water type Pokemon, and we have a grass type Pokemon in Paris, which should work. At least it would work if Paris knew any damaging grass type moves. Before facing the gym leader, I explore around a bit and run into Gary again. He leads with a bird thing, and even though birds aren't even real, I figure that bug types would be weak against them because the whole early bird gets the worm thing kind of has to apply there, right? And that thing seems to be true in Pokemon as well, as I'm still trying to use Clown. I switch out and notice that when we switch both Pokemon get EXP, so I decided to switch train a bit on the Nugget Bridge and around the Gary fight. Gary all around was a bit too strong for us, and we lose on the first try, probably because we only have one usable Pokemon at the moment in our starter Pokemon. I guess this is authentic to someone's first ever playthrough though, where most people just use their starter as much as they can. On the second try, I was a bit more careful, and although it was tedious, I still got through him. I figured the gym leader would be harder than Gary, so instead of going right to the gym, I just explore north and have a ton of trainers to fight. One of them even asked us to join Team Rocket, and I'd totally be down, but the game doesn't let us do that. I even ran into an Oddish in this area, which looks like a grass type because this thing is a plant or a vegetable thing, I don't know. But I have no balls, so after getting some balls, I return and catch one. I name it Onion because it kinda looks like one, and it's the least alien looking thing on our team. Turns out it's a grass type, which is perfect, and it clears out all of the rock types many of the trainers have nearby. Now that we have 2 usable Pokemon in Hamilton and this Oddish, I feel confident to take on the next gym. Misty Starmie was just too much on the first try though, so I go back north to fight some more trainers, and stumble across this really weird guy who managed to merge with a Pokemon or whatever. I don't know what kind of furry stuff this is, but in return he gives us a cruise ticket, and I really hope this isn't one of those weird furry cruises we're about to get on. Now that Oddish is a higher level and we learn the power of Poison Powder, we head back to fight Misty and hammer away at her for our second gym badge, largely thanks to this Onion. Onish evolves after the fight, and you know what, Onion, now you do kind of like some alien plant thing, so this alien theme is starting to roll unintentionally. Next, I explore the town a bit more, trying to find out where to go next, and find this police officer who tells us about a thief that he is looking for. There is a guy that's just hanging out behind this house though, and it looks like he's in Team Rocket, so I wonder if they're connected at all. To the surprise of no one, this guy is a thief, then he gives us the TM he stole, and we just don't give it back, making us not much better than the thief itself. Continuing along, I find a tree that we can't cut, so surely we'll have to return here later, then find a daycare where I can put our crab, and I never got crab back out of there, so sorry crab. Then find another roadblock in this blocked gate, then head into this other building that brings us down to route number 6. Exploring around here, we find a fisherman who we lie to and say we enjoy fishing, just so he can give us a fishing rod. Now, I haven't beaten the game since as I'm writing this, but I didn't use the rod right away, and I have no idea why. Talking to some more people here, we have this one girl who wants to trade us a Farfetch in exchange for a Spearow. I don't think I've seen either of those Pokemon yet, so we'll have to wait on that. Then I find the Pokemon fan club where this old man tells us how much he loves his Rapidash, then he gives us a bike voucher we can use to exchange for a bike in Cerulean City. I notice here there's a gym in this city as well, but there's another one of those silly trees blocking the way, so I have to figure out a way to get around that tree. I head east some more and find some more trainers to fight along here, as well as a wild Spearow that I catch and then go and trade for the Farfetch'd. On Route 12, this large thing reminds me a bit of your mother, as she is just laying there blocking our way, so I just go back to Vermilion City where I notice that we can read this gym sign backwards. All that really tells us is that the gym leader, Lieutenant Surge, is the Lightning American. No idea what that even means, but this stupid tree is still blocking the gym, showing us how bad the city's planning really is. Now to go over type advantages that we figured out a bit, I have water, grass, fire, rock, and bug down pretty nicely, and know a little bit about flying and normal type, although I can't find out what normal type is weak to or super effective against. Exploring a bit more, I come across the boat, which thankfully is not some weird ferry cruise, and instead is a luxury day cruise we can check out. I don't really know what the point of this boat is since we can't even catch any Pokemon on it. We can battle a lot of trainers though and get some EXP at least and find some items. This eventually leads us to our rival, and now that we have 2 usable Pokemon, we can lay waste to his intrepid team in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Next, we head on upstairs to the captain's room. We have to rub his back, and then he gives us the Cut HM, which we can use to cut all those pesky trees that are blocking our path. I don't know why they can't just invest in a landscaping service in the town so the citizens of Kanto don't have to deal with a tree blocking off part of their city, but whatever. Surprisingly, I was able to get the gym puzzle on the very first try in Lieutenant Surge's gym, which is pretty lucky. Then we can fight the gym leader. He says how people call him the Lightning American, but no, they don't. Who even says that? If he used water types, would he be called the Wet American? He's the only one who's called himself that so far, and we were told that birds and water are weak to lightning, but we aren't really using either of those types anyway, as Magikarp is useless. It doesn't say what's good against him though, so I just don't use Chiding because it's a bird and focus on using Charmeleon instead. Gloom helps too to get through him pretty easily. I was hoping that we'd stumble into the Diglett cave to be able to use a Diglett against him instead, but we weren't told to go in there yet. I noticed that after getting our badge, this aid appears and tells us to go to Route 2 in order to get the Flash HM, and it looks like the easiest way to get through Route 2 is to go through the Diglett Cave and encounter a whopping level 29 Dugtrio, so I catch it and name it McNugget, immediately making it one of our strongest Pokemon on our squad. Chiding proves its worth a little bit by being our team's resident cut user, as we pick up this bike. Actually, I forgot to pick up the bike, but I wrote in the script that I did, but we'll get it later, don't worry. And head over toward the next route. Against these trainers, we find out that McNugget is absolutely goated in the sauce, as the kids say, and might be our best Pokemon. It helps us figure out some new type advantages and disadvantages, leading us to the grass where we find this cool thing that the Lightning American used himself, so I caught one. We have 6 Pokemon somehow now, and it works out that the Voltorb we just caught can learn Flash for the Rock Tunnel. I actually taught it to Gloom, don't know why I wrote that. If I didn't talk to the aide about Flash, I probably would have just given up on the game here if I was a new player because of how tedious it is to get through the Rock Tunnel without Flash. I know it's possible, but going through a dark maze with limited vision in a game that you've never played before just doesn't seem very enjoyable. In this cave though, we find another Zubat that's an even higher level than the ones we have, so you know the drill, it's time for Alien 4. The Rock Tunnel was more straightforward than I thought, and was easier to get through than Mount Moon with less dead ends. It leads us to Lavender Town, which doesn't have a gym in it, but it does have the Pokemon Tower. They talk a lot about Pokemon death here, which is a bit creepy, with the tower being the resting place for dead Pokemon. We go in here and have another rival fight, where we can learn that McNugget can't even hit his bird-type Pokemon with ground-type moves. After defeating Gary, we can progress through the tower and see these spooky ghosts we can't catch, and eventually make it to this one ghost we can't pass, who tells us to get out, so we just leave and head south to see what's over there. We fight some trainers, and after battling Fisherman Hawk to a pulp, we realize that we can't go any farther south and instead go west of Lavender Town to find our way into Celadon City. There's a lot to do here, like check out the department store. We can explore around a bit more now and come across this casino that we can't gamble in yet, but we find this weird guy just staring at the poster. We fight him, then he just runs and disappears. No idea where he went or why he was guarding this poster. Oh. This is another thing a new player could pretty easily miss, but since we're talking to pretty much everyone that's around here, we're able to find out that we have to talk to the poster. Naturally, we go down these hidden sketchy casino stairs and find these weird spinny tiles, battle a ton of Team Rocket grunts, and find a key leading us to the Mafia leader himself, Giovanni. His team was rather underwhelming, so after defeating him, he gives us the Silph Scope we can then use to see the unseen, like ghosts I guess. So we head back to the Lavender Tower, and look at that, we can see ghosts now. I tried to catch the ghost at the top, but I killed it by accident and permanently sent it to the afterlife, save Mr. Fuji, and get this Pokeflute to use on those pesky sleeping Pokemon. Hamilton evolves to Charizard, and now I decide to head back to Celadon since there was a gym there that we didn't fight yet. Along the way, we find a coin case, gamble away our life savings, then since this is a grass-type gym, we know that they're weak to fire, so we use Charizard to collect our 4th gym badge. I noticed in Erica's gym there was also no guide telling us what types to use or not to use here, which I've never seen before, and I think it's the only gym in the Kanto region that just doesn't have a guide. Now that we have this flute to wake up the sleeping Pokemon, I wake up the Snorlax next to Celadon City, accidentally knock it out, and also realize I forgot to pick up the bike last time we were in Cerulean City, so we can't go to Cycling Road just yet. I just explore the surrounding area a little bit, and come across this girl who gives us the Fly HM, which we can then use to fly back to Cerulean to get the bike, then continue down Cycling Road. Here we find a Dodua, which I just have to catch because 1, it's a higher level than our current bird, Chiding, and 2, it has 2 heads, and 2 heads are better than 1, so I name it Two-Piece. While on the Cycling Road, I also learned that flying is weak to fighting. I never thought about that, but why? What's the reasoning behind a silly bird to be stronger than a green mutant with arms? Anyway, as we reach the end of the Cycling Road, we make it to Fuchsia City. We can explore a bit here, and I quickly find Koga's gym, so I challenge it. He has these weird invisible walls and a team of poison types which I slowly learn are weak to ground, although some poison types, like Coughing, are immune to ground because of their levitate abilities. This gym wasn't too bad. Despite how cool Koga is, they give him the weirdest team that doesn't quite fit his ninja aesthetic, but whatever, it's another gym badge down, so we'll take it. I continue to explore the city and come across this guy. I have no idea what he's saying. A lot of people here are talking about this Safari Zone, whatever that is. I'll try to find it, but I also find another fisherman who gives us a better rod, so I use it this time and just find a useless level 5 Poliwag I don't even catch. Guess I'll just head towards the Safari Zone instead, and this random guy named Eric is waiting for somebody named Sarah. I think he got stood up, but then once I go into the Safari Zone, I found Sarah who was waiting for Eric at a different spot. I don't know how they messed that up. Within the Safari Zone, I find a Leaf Stone, and thinking it works like the Moonstone, I try to use it, and learn that it works in our Gloom so we can evolve it into a Vileplume, and look a little bit less alien-like. I also caught a Nidoran that I never used in the Safari Zone, find some gold teeth, get the grand prize, the Surf HM, and these teeth apparently belong to the Warden, which would explain why he could barely talk when we first found him, and as a reward for returning his teeth, we get another HM, but this time it's Strength. Now that we have 5 gym badges, I'm a bit unsure on what to do. I haven't explored east of Fuchsia City yet, so I check it out, fight some more trainers around there, find yet another fisherman who is obsessed with Magikarps, so I caught one and plan on returning here later once I can get my Magikarps out of the PC to show him. Along the way, I find another Snorlax we can catch and end up in Lavender Town. The game doesn't explicitly say where to go next, but at least we can show the fisherman our 2 Magikarps in exchange for 2 netballs. Remember the first Magikarp that I bought that said was a scam for 500 Pokédollars? Well, it got us a netball which we got from this fisherman, which I then sold for $500, so therefore we got a free Magikarp, and I don't feel as bad. I started to think about where we have to go after Koga's gym next and noticed there is an island in the water we can go to. We just got the Surf gym in Fuchsia City, so it only makes sense for us to surf over there next, right? First, we just need a Pokemon that can learn Surf, so I fish up a Water-type Pokemon in Gyarados just for Surf, and also learned that Snorlax apparently gets Surf. Didn't know that, so we surf on over to Cinnabar Island and see that the gym is locked. Apparently, there's a key in the mansion though. I explore around more and find the Fossil Research Lab where we can resurrect our Dome Fossil. I imagine this will take a very long time, so I'll come back here much later. I go to the mansion that everyone's been chatting about next and find the key to the gym in the mansion's basement. Don't know how it ended up all the way down here, but upon entering the gym, the guide tells us to stock up on burn heals for Blaine's Fire-type Pokemon. I checked the mart in this town, and they don't even sell burn heals though, so what's up with that? I just use our Surfing Snorlax to douse Blaine's fire types, and after getting the Volcano badge, we see Bill again. He invites us on yet another cruise to go to some sort of island, and seeing as we already dodged a bullet with the first cruise, somehow not being a furry cruise, I figure it's best to skip out this other cruise and this island that we have the option to say no to. We definitely dodged a bullet with that one, and now with 6 gym badges collected, we need to figure out a way to get the last 2. The gym in Viridian City is still locked, and that leaves just one town we haven't been to yet in Saffron City. There must be a gym over there or something, but how do we even get there? There's a guard guarding each way into the city saying that they're thirsty, so maybe if we give them a drink from the vending machines in the department store, they'll let me through. I tried that with every drink and it just didn't work. I even thought maybe we would need to have a water type in the lead and that would somehow not make him thirsty, but that didn't work either, so I just talked to a ton of NPCs around the area until I find this one nice old lady who gives us a tea to slake even the worst of thirst. We give the tea to the guard and this finally lets us get through to Saffron City, but I can imagine getting stuck here if I truly was a new player and didn't use any outside resources to help me. Now that we're in Saffron City though, we see how it's overrun with Team Rocket and there's 2 gyms here. I check out the one without a door and just get this Hitmonchan as a prize that I named Bruce and no gym badge. We can't get into the other gym just yet, so I explore around the town a bit more and find the Sylph building where Team Rocket is. I find my way to the top, beat our rival again, get a Lapras, then finally find Giovanni. He has a pretty generic plan, so I guess I can put on this generic PokeTuber voice to talk about this epic fight we had, where we talk to him a little bit, and then we fight. Winner gets this cool Master Ball as a prize, and enough of that for now. With just 2 gym badges left and Team Rocket gone, we can head into the Saffron City gym. The guide tells us that fighting types aren't good here, so sorry Bruce. The gym leader Sabrina is all about psychic type Pokemon and we still haven't figured out what they're weak to, so this should be interesting. I also noticed that a lot of the trainers here are lower level than Blaine's, which makes sense since we did this in the wrong order, but I still think it's very feasible for a new player to do exactly what I did to battle Blaine first, then comes Sabrina later. When I eventually make it to Sabrina, I lead with Dugtrio and it works pretty well. It eventually falls, so I use Charizard to clean up the rest of her team, and even though we had nothing super effective against Sabrina's gym, it was pretty easy. She's one of the hardest gym leaders in Kanto, but we had some levels on her from doing the gyms out of order by accident, so that worked out for us. With only 1 badge left for us to claim, I headed over to Viridian City. This is the only gym we haven't entered yet, and it's conveniently unlocked now. The guide tells us that there's a lot of ground type Pokemon here, but the guide doesn't even know who the gym leader is despite working for him, so how does that even work? I use Onion against the ground types and defeat all of the trainers, making our way to the gym leader, who is Giovanni. I can see this being a surprise for people who don't know, but it's kind of anticlimactic since his team still kinda sucks and he just runs away forever after we defeat him, getting our last and final gym badge. All that leaves now is the Pokemon League located west of Viridian City. Along the way, we have another rival fight against Gary. He leads with Pidgeot, and you know what, Gary kinda sucks, we beat him very easily and continue along through the badge gate into Victory Road. I figure this is just before the final fight, so I might as well flesh out our team since I still have 2 really low Pokemon in Doduo and Hitmonchan that I should probably replace. First I encounter a Golbat that looks like Alien 1 through 4, so I catch and name it Alien number 5. Then I see a Primeape I try to catch and name Hawk after the Primeape from the first intended video I made, but I accidentally knock it out and find a Machoke instead. It's a higher level, so Machoke, you're a Hawk too, at least you're still a fighting type anyway, so it kinda works. I eventually make it to the end of the Victory Road, and let's recap the team before the final fight. First we have our starter Pokemon, Hamilton the Charizard, Onion the Vileplume, which was our very first Pokemon we used after our starter, McNugget the Dugtray, which has been our best Pokemon since catching it, Snorlax, which I didn't even intend on using, but it's a high level so I kept it, and then Alien 5 we just caught, and Hawk 2, a Machoke that somehow is our second highest level despite just catching it. Now for the Elite Four. First up is Lorelei. The game here doesn't tell us types, but it does say that we have to battle all of these trainers back to back, so it should be tough. She leads with a Dugong, a Pokemon we've never seen before, so we have to figure out its type. It looks like a Seal, so I figure it's a water type and switch out Charizard. I had a hard time figuring out her team and what beats ice, and eventually find out that it's weak to fighting. At least some of her ice types are weak to fighting. I lost pretty quickly on the first try because our team doesn't match up well against ice types. I teach the team some new moves and this time lead with Hawk. Lorelei was still very annoying, and once getting through her Dugong and abusing potions and revives, it wasn't too bad. Second was Bruno, and he had mostly Pokemon we've seen before, making it not so bad, largely thanks to revives again. Agatha was surprisingly the easiest, even though I tend to see her as the hardest Elite Four member in the Kanto games, and often lose to her when I do a Nuzlocke challenge. I guess the secret to beating her this time around is pretending like we don't know what I'm doing, and spamming Flamethrower with Charizard, which worked out very nicely. Fourth up is Lance's Dragons, a type we haven't seen just yet. We have Dragon Claw on Charizard though, so we know the type exists, and Lance was pretty tough. He Hyper Beam Snorlax, Aerodactyl being immune to ground, and us not having a water type, yeah, we lost pretty quickly. Then I lost quickly again. Then on the third try, I also lost very quickly. We are under level, which is supposed to happen for the Elite Four, as it's intended to be a hard fight, and they make it hard by ramping all the levels, and at this rate we'll never win. I decided to do some off-screen grinding next, and match Lance's level 60 Pokemon, and whoa, look at that, we get through it much easier now. All that leaves now is the champion, and I wonder who the champion could be. Oh, it's just Gary, and there you have it. We beat Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green as a new player, sort of. Gary was really easy. I did my best to ignore my prior knowledge of Pokemon and just go off what the game tells us. We learned that the help function by pressing L and R in Fire Leaf Green is pretty useless, and although there are some confusing instances like the Team Rocket Game Corner, finding the T, the gym order, and figuring out type effectiveness, it still wasn't so bad. It was a lot of trial and error and just talking to a ton of NPCs, which helped me learn things about the game I didn't even know before, like the whole Eric and Sarah misdate thing, the Magikarp guy, and a few other instances. It was still pretty fun to play, and overall I think it does a pretty good job at showcasing what someone's first ever Pokemon experience could look like if they don't know much about the series or anything about the series prior. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more Pokemon videos as well. With all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, have a great rest of your day, I'll see you all next time, and bye bye.